Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Chris with Inside the U. I have another 10 takeaways and tidbits following today's 8th spring practice. This is based on interviews with Jonathan Patke, the inside linebackers coach and special teams coordinator, as well as players Girvin Hall, Jordan Miller, and Xavier Restrepo. Okay, before we get started, I just want to thank everybody for watching these videos, this new series. Glad you guys enjoy it. And if you do, please hit the like button still and subscribe to the channel. Okay, let's get right into it. My number one takeaway is kind of a big one, and it's Corey Flagg, the linebacker in his second season. Look, Bradley Jennings Jr. started every game last season at this position. However, I think Corey Flagg is going to take over the spot. I think he's going to be Miami's starting middle linebacker, and I know that might be a little bit of a surprise. Look, we're only halfway through spring, still a lot to go to, still a lot to get through with the offseason and the summer, but here's why I think Corey's going to take it over. Coach Patke mentioned once again, not only has Corey improved from last season, but one of the things that stands out to me and one of the reasons why I believe he's going to earn this spot is, look, Corey is all over the field. He's all over the facility. He's always around. He's almost like a gym rat in the sense that he's always trying to learn from film. One of the things that Girvin Hall mentioned is that Corey's doing a good job of being vocal, and he said he's really impressed him this spring. Not only is he being vocal, but it almost is a point where he's a veteran, which is great to hear from a second-year player. He's also been a guy that's trimmed down his weight. He knows he's got to slim down a little bit, improve his speed, but I think that some of that stuff can improve before the season starts. Plus, I think the big thing with Corey is he's got great instincts, and tackling ability will be key at that position. I just think he's going to win that spot. The other player that's working in the middle is Tyreek Austin-Cave, who has also showed some athleticism in that spot, also a second-year guy, but I think he's well behind Bradley and Corey at this time. Once again, I think it's good news in the sense that you're starting to see a player emerge, and that's Corey Flagg. My number two takeaway is Xavier Restrepo. He had that big spring scrimmage, and that's great to see. Over 100 yards, catches piling up. He's working out of the slot. That's a place that, he was expected to fill in it. And basically, he's just really settling in his role. One of the things that stands out to me with Xavier is he's talked a lot about last year being a learning experience. Felt like he learned a lot from Mike Harley, which is a great sign because Mike's considered one of the hardest working players on the team. Guy that has experience working in the slot, and that's basically where Xavier can make the most of his abilities, is right there in the slot. Another thing that Xavier mentioned is he's rooming with Tyler Van Dyke, and also gave credit for Tyler and Jake Garcia for their strong arms, their ability to take in plays and really just learn and apply themselves. So that's a good sign that Xavier's talking highly about the quarterbacks. Number three is Girvin Hall. Girvin's a guy that really wants to improve on his man technique in this offseason and going into next year. He's a guy that's played quite a bit at Miami already. He wants to improve on that man technique, and he actually admitted that Xavier has given him some trouble at times in guarding him. So I think that's good for Girvin. I think you need that safety, the way that, with lining him up at different spots. So that's good that he wants to improve on that. And another thing that Girvin mentioned was, he said Ed Reed has talked to the safeties over the weekend about, look, Coach Reed wants them to stay low. He felt like the safeties were getting a little too high at times, and I think Girvin's a guy that certainly applies to. So Girvin wants to work on his man technique, stay low a little bit more. Number four, Avery Huff. I've talked about him a little bit already on these videos, but Avery, I think it's great to see because he is a guy that a lot of people liked coming out of high school. Good athleticism, it's still there, good speed, and people have been waiting. When are we going to see Avery Huff on the field? Basically, he's, still adapting to learning and things like that with the playbook and whatnot and what they want to do on defense. Coach Patke mentioned he has actually seen a great improvement with Avery in terms of those things. Mentally, really did a good job in these first 8 practices, did well in the scrimmage. Good sign for Avery that he's coming along. I'm not ready to say that Avery's going to emerge and be that starting weak side linebacker the way I said with Corey, but it's certainly a good sign because it's wide open. Wayne Steed is in that spot as well. And then Sam Brooks could be a guy slotting in there, and I'll talk about Sam a little bit later. But just wanted to touch on Avery Huff. Again, good signs for the fans of Avery Huff, showing that athleticism, but also applying, things he's learning, which is great to see. Number 5 is Jordan Miller, defensive tackle. He's been playing a lot with the ones lately. Nesta Jade Silvera's out, so Jordan moves up. He's been playing with the ones quite a bit, been with the twos as well. said he dealt with COVID, so he actually gained a little over 10 pounds, got up to 336, but now he feels good. He's down to 316, and he wants to be, faster, quicker, those kind of things. One of the things he mentioned with Jess Simpson coming back to coach the defensive line is that Coach Simpson is really detail-oriented. And Jordan mentioned that he really likes that in the coach, and because he feels like that he's that kind of player as well. The big thing with Jordan is not just the weight changes, but he wants to have more moves and not just be a bull rushing defensive tackle. So he feels like he's improved on his moves at the point of attack, and he's been able to apply that in spring practices. So he likes the progress he's already been able to make, which is great because you can never have enough defensive tackles, and Jordan with his size can certainly be an asset if he continues to improve. Number 6, it's not really a takeaway, it's more of a tidbit. Real quick, safety Avantae Williams. I've talked about him a ton this spring already. Girvin Hall said he is an animal. I think that's great that you hear that from another safety because obviously Avantae is trying to move up the depth chart and take Girvin's spot, but Girvin's like, man, this guy's essentially saying he's really good, really impressed by him. Number 7 has to do with the kick returner and punt returner. A lot of names to get to. I want to go through all of them. The guys that are working in at kick returner and punt returner. First off, it's Tyreek Stevenson. He's a guy that's being worked at both spots according to special teams coordinator Coach Patke. And I think that's interesting because I don't think people would have automatically assumed Tyreek would just jump right in and be one of those guys. In particular, at punt returner, Coach Patke said he's one of 2 guys. Stevenson and Restrepo are the main 2 that they're looking at, as well as Charleston Rambo and Mike Harley there at the punt return game. One thing is that they're trying to do this spring, they definitely want to improve in that area on the field during games, and they want to make sure all the guys are getting live in-game, in practice, fielding of punts. And so they're working on catching jugs before and after practice, but during practice, they definitely want to try to get as many live balls as possible. At kick returner, I mentioned Stevenson and Restrepo. Those are 2 of the 5 guys. Mike Harley is another one. And then the other 2 spots that Coach Patke's looking at is Don Cheney Jr. and Jalen Knighton. Coach Patke mentions a little bit different of a spot than punt returner, and he really feels like it's a spot where offensive guys can really take ownership and take that spot. He likes what Mike Harley's been able to do in terms of being able to read spaces and attack, so he feels like he's got some natural ability at the kick returner spot. So we'll see how that shakes out. Number 8, Desmond Troutman, early enrollee linebacker, playing that weak side spot this spring. He had a good spring scrimmage according to Patke. One thing he said about Troutman is he doesn't feel like he's, this isn't too big for him. He felt like he was in there on quite a few tackles, felt like he was productive and really doing a good job against the run. So that's a good sign for Troutman. He was a guy that was productive in high school, so you like that he's continuing that production as he makes the adjustment to college, and he could be a guy to watch for at that weak side spot. If he continues to make the adjustments to the college game, a lot can happen between now and the start of the season, and certainly as the season goes on, for a guy like Troutman to gain experience and be even more comfortable as he moves forward. Okay, number 9 goes back to Sam Brooks. I said I wanted to mention him, and basically we found out today that he's still slowed by a toe injury that he dealt with last fall during the season. And that basically does explain quite a bit of the season that Sam had. Wasn't able to really get on track and get going the way we saw him finish 2 years ago in the bowl game. One thing that Coach Patke mentioned was they definitely want to get him all the way healthy, but they feel like that they know he's a good player and he will certainly be in the mix. So big thing for Sam is just to get healthy, and then we'll see how he slots in. He has played in the middle before. I think weak side might be a quicker spot for him to get on the field because I'm not sure that weak side spot is solidified the way I feel like Flagg is starting to take a lead on that middle spot. Again, it's just my observations or based on some of the interactions that the players and coaches are having and the way they talk about Corey. But Sam Brooks, keep an eye on him moving forward as he progresses. He'll be a guy to watch for. Maybe not this spring, but definitely in the off season. Hopefully he has a good summer, and then we'll see how he does in the fall. My last and final takeaway / tidbit of today's practice goes to the kicker position. Andres Borregales, the early enrollee, and the walk-on Camden Price, former walk-on. Those 2 guys are in a battle, and we'll see how it plays out. But one thing that Patke mentioned with Andres Borregales is that he's a guy that even though he's in his first semester of college, he comes in with a lot of experience, and I thought that was a good sign. And again, younger brother of Jose, who won the Groza Award last year. And Jose's certainly excited for Andres, the way he progresses throughout his college career. But also, one of the things that he mentioned was not only the experience, but basically just getting a grasp of what it takes to be at the college level. He's kicked off the ground in high school, which I don't think a lot of people paid much attention to. In high school, you're allowed to kick from the tee. And so it does take some kickers an adjustment to when they get to college. But Borregales has been kicking from the ground in high school, so the transition's a lot easier. So good sign from him. Cameron Price will certainly be in the mix. Those are my 10 takeaways and tidbits from today's practice. The 8th of the spring, 7 more to go. Can't believe we're already at the midway point. For more coverage, more in-depth coverage of the inside of the Miami Hurricanes, visit InsideTheU.com. Thanks again for watching, and take care.